Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Victor Abou-Assaleh. I am the host for today's webinar. Thank you very much for joining. It is officially noon here on the Eastern Time Zone, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is going to be about how are your users sharing confidential information. So maybe before we begin to things, just do a quick intro for those of you that don't know me. I am the Director of Business Development at TitanFile. I often speak at events, and I also run the monthly webinar series for TitanFile, both on the educational side as well as on the security side. I work quite actively hands-on with hundreds of clients, and my background is really from the technical side, from the engineering side. But as a result of being at TitanFile for the last 5 years, I've become a product expert. And so I know my way around quite well within the platform. So if you do have any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those. Now, I was born and raised in the Niagara Falls region, but I'm currently based out of the TitanFile headquarters in Toronto. So if you're ever in the neighborhood and you need some sushi recommendations, feel free to ask. I am an enthusiast and very much enjoy sushi. So the format of today's webinar is going to be as follows. We're going to try to break it up into 4 sections. We're going to spend the first 10 or so minutes of the webinar talking about some of the trends in the industry. Then we're going to switch into a live demonstration of the platform. We're going to spend about 20 minutes there. And we're going to go back to the slide deck here and talk a little bit more details with regards to the actual feature sets. So for those, I know we have a mixture of attendees today. For those on the IT side that are interested a little bit more about the security and specific feature sets, we'll be covering that in the solution overview section. And I wanted to leave a healthy chunk of time at the end for Q&A. Any kinds of questions, whether it's related to the presentation or to the platform, I'd be happy to answer those. You may notice that your microphones have been muted just to keep the flow of the webinar going. Feel free throughout the webinar to ask questions using either the chat or the questions function in the GoToWebinar application, and we'll answer all of those questions at the end in that Q&A portion so that everybody can benefit from your questions as well as the responses. Finally, there will be a couple of polls that I'm going to pop up throughout the presentation just to keep you more engaged and get your feedback. So I encourage you to go ahead and please participate in those as you see fit. So with that in mind, all the introductions out of the way, happy Friday, everybody, and let's get right to it. So I'm going to go through a couple of different trends that are happening, that have happened recently in the last year or so in the security world. Just talk about a couple of different breaches to get everybody in the same mindset and on the same page. So this one, everybody should have probably heard of this by now. If you haven't, there was over 500 million accounts breached in an attack on Yahoo a little while back. And if you recall, all kinds of personal and confidential information was disclosed in those attacks. Things like names, email addresses, telephone numbers, passwords, security questions. And this actual data breach affected Yahoo's value when they were being purchased. So their actual value went down as a result of them having been exposed to such an attack and having gone through this ordeal. So important to keep in mind that these types of scenarios, any kind of cybersecurity scenario that affects your firm may have a monetary effect for sure. So to get things started, I want to launch a poll here just to see where everybody stands on this one in the attendees. So the poll goes as follows. Does anyone in your organization use their personal Dropbox accounts at work? So we all know Dropbox is a super popular tool. We all probably use it at home for sharing pictures with our families and so on. But when it comes into your office, do you know, as an administrator or as potentially as a user, are you aware that people are using personal accounts, whether it's Dropbox or other forms, at the office? I do encourage everybody to participate, and we'll close the poll in about 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's close it and let's see what the group is saying. So according to today's attendees, half don't know and half say no. That's great. In previous webinars that we host on a monthly basis, it's a little bit more split across the board, where it's half yes, half no, and half I don't know. So we'll hide this poll for now and we'll keep going. So you may have also heard this. This breach actually occurred way back in 2012. Believe it or not, that's 5 years ago. It's hard to believe time flies so fast. But it was only disclosed recently, within the last year or so, where over 68 million Dropbox accounts, usernames, and passwords were disclosed on the internet. So there was quite a significant attack there that did also leak all kinds of information as well. Something more relevant to the legal industry, because I know that part of this webinar's promotion was done through ILTA, the International Legal Technology Association. So I know a handful of attendees today are coming from that avenue as well. So something relevant to your industry would be the Panama Papers, major international law firm that if you're not aware of this story, I invite you to go. I took a screenshot of the website, panamapapers.icij.org. It talks in detail about this very high-profile law firm, Mossack Fonseca, how they suffered a cyber attack, and over 2.6 terabytes of data was disclosed. Everything from email correspondence to images, documents, client information, and it implicated quite a few high-profile individuals, including politicians. I believe there was a politician that may have resigned in Europe. Celebrities, sports celebrities, all kinds of personal information related to wealth and confidential data was disclosed out into the open because this law firm had all this sensitive information on their clients. And this exists in every business, not just law firms. Every business that deals with clients is likely to have some very private and confidential data on their system. So important to keep that in mind. Which brings us to our second poll. So let me just get this poll launched. Here we go. So we all know that your employees in the office are exchanging confidential information outside of the organization every day, whether it's corresponding with clients, whether it's corresponding with vendors. And so the traditional methods of communication have to date been email. Now, when a file is too big to go through email, meaning the attachment exceeds what your firm has set in place, or maybe you've come to the conclusion that this information shouldn't go through email because of its sensitivity and we have to protect it. So in these types of scenarios, I'm trying to get a better picture of today's attendees. What tools are you using within the organization? You can select more than one. So there's FTP and couriering of USBs and DVDs for large file transfer. We talked about solutions like Dropbox and Google Drive. You may have an enterprise solution in place, and you may also have encrypted email in certain circumstances for sharing that sensitive information. So we're at about 60% of attendees voted. I'm going to try to get at least 75 so we get a good cross-section. So for those that haven't participated yet, I encourage you to go ahead and vote, make your selections, and then we'll share the poll results with everybody so that we see what everybody's doing in today's webinar. And we're going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alrighty. So we got 60% of the votes. And let's take a look at what everybody is using. So it looks like it's fairly split across the board with the exception of encrypted email, but there's a little bit of everything being used. Some more traditional methods like FTP and couriering of physical media for that large file transfer, and there's some file sharing solutions being used both on the enterprise side and on the consumer side. All right, let's keep rolling. Let me just hide this poll. Okay, I think we might have skipped one slide too far. Just want to bring up one more relevant example here. So this actually came out at the end of last year. So this is the most relevant or the most recent attack that occurred specifically in the legal industry, professional services industry, where several hackers of, I believe, Chinese origin attacked two prominent New York law firms. At least one of them was a New York law firm. And this was brought up to us. I attended the ILTA Legal Security Conference that occurred in DC I believe last week I was there. And this was brought up as the keynote conversation. So the keynote speaker, who isn't the man in the picture actually, this is somebody else. The keynote speaker was Sarin Turner. He's a partner at a major law firm in the United States, but prior to that he was an assistant district attorney. And he brought up this example as the keynote speech for this year's Legal Security Conference, where essentially a number of foreign nationals attacked two U.S. prominent firms, and they were targeting M&A deals, mergers and acquisition deals. And what they did was they actually targeted attorney email accounts, and they were tracking to see all the correspondence that was going between attorneys within the firm as well as with attorneys and outside parties to see when the mergers of two big deals, billion-dollar deals, multi-billion-dollar deals. I believe one deal was $9 billion and the second deal was somewhere in the range of $16 billion. So companies buying other companies, and these folks basically these hackers were able to gain insider information on the terms of the deal and when the deal was going to happen, and as a result profited over $4 million from insider trading. And the gentleman in the picture there, the U.S. attorney that was investigating this, they eventually caught these folks, but this was the most recent attack, and it occurred back in 2014, 2015, but only disclosed last year. So takeaway from this one is that attacks are still happening on a regular basis, and professional service firms are targets. The time from when a cyber breach occurs to when it becomes public are usually different times. So sometimes you don't actually know that something has occurred and your systems have been compromised until much later. Okay, so just to run through some stats here to keep things relevant, this was done by an IBM study, which says that an average data breach costs close to $4 million, which brings it down to roughly about $150 per record that was breached. Now, if you've managed to peruse through the ILTA Tech Survey, which they publish every year, ILTA is the International Legal Technology Association for those that are on the webinar, not from the legal world. They come out with, they survey the entire membership, and there are 4 things that were the top challenges that were for 2016-2017, and that was security management and user adoption. So getting people to adopt software that you've already purchased. And further later in the year, our very own TitanFile president and founder, Tony, along with Richard McConnell, who's a director from a major law firm in Canada, Gowlings WLG, sat down on a panel to talk about proactive strategies with regards to strengthening governance and security oversight. Now, this was an hour-long panel with 2 other security experts, so I won't go into the details there, but I wanted to share with you the takeaways. And really the takeaways were 4 points. It's important to always provide security awareness training for your users. It's important to have network monitoring on your systems. Cloud-based systems are really the future, and they're becoming more and more secure, more so than on-premise systems. And there was a term that was used called usable security, and I'm going to refer to this term as we continue throughout the webinar. But usable security essentially means using secure tools that people will actually adopt, because in the past, anything that related to security, users shied away from because it created too many steps for them to do their everyday work. So as we continue through here, some more stats on how email is used in the average office. And this is not specific to legal, this is in the corporate world. But to distill this, the average office employee is sending and receiving over 100 emails a day. Why is this relevant? Because that's the way that we traditionally, and predominantly communicate with the outside world. A survey that was done by LexisNexis, a major organization, major vendor in the legal world, came up with 3 really interesting stats where 90%, roughly 90% of professionals are using email to collaborate with clients, and who knows what kind of data is going through there. More than 2/3 use unencrypted email, so we're sending emails that are unencrypted, potentially with client data. And the last one gives me always a chuckle, and I hope it gives you the same effect, that 3 out of 4 professionals rely on that confidentiality disclaimer, that big, paragraph-long disclaimer at the bottom of the email, as their security, to say, if you receive this email by mistake, it's not my fault, just delete it and send it back to the recipient. But I believe that if somebody receives confidential information at that point, it's already a little too late. So this one always gives me a little bit of a laugh. So just 3 points from this slide that I want to talk about, and I'm going to carry this theme throughout the live demo. We're going to really focus on security, making sure that the encryption, there's audit reports, and there's control of the data that you're sharing. We want to talk about how you get more user adoption. How do you get your users to actually use tools that are security tools? And finally, something that will address multiple use cases. Within organizations, typically, there's different practice groups, and there's different types of use cases that are required to be addressed. And sometimes the tool might be, the tool that you choose or the tool that you may have, whether it's FTP or you're sending out USB sticks or you're using Dropbox or something else, may address one of those use cases. But what about everybody else? So not always does one tool cover all your needs, so it's important to find something that's robust and flexible. Now, looking at this, this is not, I know the slide says old world, but really this is not 5 or 10 years ago. This is, believe it or not, still today. There's a lot of organizations struggling with how to get information to an outside party. The everyday professional, and we're not talking about IT folks, we're talking about, lawyers, accountants, financial advisors. The everyday professional is faced with a handful of different ways to communicate. They can use good old courier mail. Some people are still using fax. There's email, and there's things like Dropbox and those types of solutions. And the issue is that some of this stuff is very cumbersome. Believe it or not, try to put a 30-page document through a fax. They're dispersed. They're really slow. Mail is not fast anymore. And they're definitely insecure, and they don't meet the everyday, the enterprise security policies. So what we try to do at TitanFile, and what we've been very successful at, is being able to replace that entire band of solutions. I'll just revert back to the slide for a sec. That entire band of old and insecure solutions can be replaced with one easy, fast, secure, and compliant solution that allows you to send any kind of file through the system securely and make sure that it's only going to the right people. So I mentioned that you need a solution that handles all kinds of use cases, and if you are specifically a law firm, TitanFile we've seen being very successfully used in these use cases among many others. So anytime there's litigation where there's evidence being moved back and forth, corporate commercial deals where there's revisions of business deals going back and forth, sensitive information related to intellectual property, medical information on the insurance and personal injury side, and as well when your general counsel of your organization is having to correspond with other law firms as well. So this is what I think everybody's been waiting for. This is the good part here, the actual live demo. So in this part of the demonstration, I'm going to focus on 2 systems, or 2 parts of the TitanFile suite, if you will. First and foremost, we're going to look at the Outlook integration. How can you securely send stuff out of Outlook? And secondly, we're going to go into the, you can call it the client portal or the web application, and really showcase how power users can communicate with clients. And I'm going to show you from start to finish how easy it is to both use TitanFile and how it looks like for your recipients or your clients for them to be able to retrieve files that you've sent them, as well as send stuff back to you. So let me jump out of the slide deck. and bring up the Outlook plugin, and let's go through a live use case. Alrighty, we've got Outlook set up. Perfect. Okay, so how does TitanFile work with Outlook? First and foremost, most of us probably live in Outlook most of the day. So I'm expecting a lot of nods from the other side, even though I can't see you. But if you're already living in Outlook and you need to get something out, you need to send either a file that's exceeding your attachment size limit, and I know at some firms that could be 10 megabytes, at others it could be a little bit larger, or if it's something you've deemed that's, hey, this is confidential and I need to really make sure that only the right person on the other side gets it, and I want to get a confirmation when they actually receive it. How do we go about doing it? So let's compose a regular old email with our recipients, and we'll call this, let's call this corporate finance documents, and we'll go ahead and attach the file. So I'm going to use the attach button in Outlook, but you may already have a document management system in place that's already integrated into Outlook. So whichever way you bring in your attachments into emails today, whether it's using this attach files button or by dragging and dropping directly out of your document management system, which would likely be, you'd see it here in the lists below your inbox. Either way works. Bring in the file how you normally would, and it doesn't matter what the size of the file is, and it doesn't matter what the type of the file is. It could be videos, it could be audio, it could be Microsoft Word or PDF files, and of course you can attach multiple documents. So I'm going to attach these three, and you can see they've attached. And the only difference between composing a regular email and using the secure send function within TitanFile is that instead of clicking the traditional Outlook send button on the left-hand side of the screen, you click secure send on the right-hand side of the screen. Hit secure send, you get a little TitanFile window that says sending in progress, and that's all you had to do. So what just happened there was you were able to send a file of any size securely to an outside party without them ever having to know about TitanFile, without them having to have a TitanFile license. And when they open it, you're going to receive a confirmation email that that file has been downloaded. So common question that comes up at this point is, okay, that seems super simple and awesome for the user, but what does my client have to do to retrieve that file? So let me bring that screen on here, and let's go through and show you what happens from a client's perspective. Okay. So what I have up on the screen right now is the client's inbox. This client is using Gmail. It doesn't matter if the client is using Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, it's irrelevant. They're using any email system that they want. An email is going to wait for them in their inbox, and it's going to be called corporate finance documents. Now recall, that's the subject line that we used earlier. So they receive a regular old email. When they open that up, this is what they see. There's actually no files being attached in the email. It's simply a branded notification email that's letting your client know that, hey, Michael from this organization has sent you the following files along with the message. Now we didn't include a message in this example, so that's all right. Now in your case, this is going to be fully branded with your organization's information. So your logo is going to replace our logo in the top right-hand corner. And here where you see a footer, the TitanFile footer with the contact information, you're going to replace this with your contact information, whether it's a signature or an email disclaimer or a set of instructions, completely up to you. That space is yours. But from here, all that the client has to do is simply click on this Access Files button, and they're going to get taken to go ahead and retrieve the documents that you've asked for. Now, in this specific example, the recipient, Victor, because I'm sending it to myself, I already had an account, so I simulated to you what happens when somebody's already has an account with TitanFile and is able to go ahead and get the files. A few moments into further into the demo, I'm going to show you what happens if the user doesn't have an account and how they go about creating that guest account to retrieve these files. So, but to finish this example off, the user gets logged in directly into the TitanFile client portal. To download the files, they can click on this Download All button here on the right-hand side. This goes ahead and downloads all the files into one click. Alternatively, you can go ahead and download the files one at a time if you want to be selective. And if we switch back into Outlook, I just want to show you, because you should have received, just give it a second to come through. I believe the inbox is synchronizing, but I'll show you the confirmation emails that these files have actually been downloaded. Now, in addition to being able to just receive files from you, your clients are going to be able to send files back. So whether it is you've sent them something to sign, whether it is you've asked for them to review something and you're expecting some revisions, or if you've asked for supplemental information and they need to send you additional documents, they can do that directly from within the TitanFile window. So all they have to do is click on the Attach Files button, simply select the files that they want to share. Again, any size, any type. They attach instantaneously. They can compose a message. You know, here are the additional documents. Click Send, and those files immediately get sent to you. So the workflow is very, very simple, both from the sender's perspective, which would be your staff member, and even so from your recipient's perspective, how they would retrieve those files and send you revisions as well. Now, that's with the Outlook. Plugin. Let's take a look on how you go about using the web interface. Just going to close that. So with the web interface, essentially you're going to have your own login page that can be fully branded to you. So here's an example of an organization currently using TitanFile. So it'll have a custom URL. So you'll have your own web address. It'll be yourcompanyname.titanfile.com. It'll have your logo. And for those that do have that are using Active Directory, you can integrate with single sign-on, just like these folks have here. So if you have this hooked up into single sign-on, your staff members can use their corporate credentials that they log into their computers to authenticate into TitanFile just by clicking on this link down here. Alternatively, if you don't have those systems in place, you will use your corporate email address as well as a password that's dedicated to TitanFile. So you'll have a login ID to get into the system. Now, once you're in, this is what the interface is going to look like. Now, I'm going to come back in just a second and dissect and share with you what the different buttons mean here and what you're seeing on the screen. But before we get into that, I just want to show you, if you're not using the Outlook plugin, how do you go about sharing something with an outside party using the web portal? So first and foremost, you would create a new channel. And I'd like to make the analogy here and run with the parallel of email. So think of creating a new channel as if you're composing a new email. There's going to be lots of parallels there. You're going to be prompted with a channel name. So just like you put a subject line in email, we'll call this demo with Victor. Next, I want to add my recipients. Simply click the Add button. And all I need to know is the email address of my recipients. And this is the example I'm going to show you. If that person doesn't have a TitanFile account, how do they go about accessing the system? So you put in the email address of your recipient party. I'm going to use one here that I have ready to go. Click Add. Because today in email, you don't have to call IT and say, I need to send this document to this individual. How do I go about doing it? You simply compose an email, put that person in, even if you've never communicated with them, attach the files and go. And so TitanFile gives you that same flexibility for being able to share things ad hoc with an outside party. And of course, if there's multiple people that you need to send this to, you can do the same thing. You can either click the Add button and add more people, or if it is somebody that you've communicated with in the past, you can search for them here in your contact list. For example, if I know I want to add Emily, I'll find Emily here using the search and simply drag and drop Emily into the channel. And there she is. So now this information is going to go both to this individual, vDemo, as well as Emily. So I'll go ahead and attach the files. Again, if you are using a document management system inside of your organization, there is integration with the most popular document management systems. If you're using iManage, there's a connector here that allows you to pull files directly out of iManage into the TitanFile application. Just like we have integration in the Outlook plugin, that integration also is available here with the web application. For those that are not using a document management system, you can still use, pick the files that you want to send. Let's say in this time I'm going to put some images of this car along with this employment contract. They all upload quickly and simultaneously. Now, if you're thinking about file size, what the limitations are, there's virtually no size limitations. We have clients that are moving around 25 gigabytes of data through the system on a daily basis. In terms of volume of documents, in this example, I'm only uploading 4 files. We have some clients in litigation use cases that are uploading tens of thousands of documents. So the system is really robust and optimized to handle all the volume that you can think of in both number of files as well as size of individual files. Now here, once we've got the files uploaded, attached, include a message. So I could say, hi, VDemo and Emily. Here are the files for your review. Thanks, Mike. So this message area here really behaves, again, just like an email, because you rarely send an attachment in Outlook without a message body. And I know in a lot of use cases there may be a cover letter that goes out or a standard message template with all of your productions, or anytime you're dealing with litigation, there are some standard messages that go out. You can copy and paste those in or compose them directly out of TitanFile, also using the rich text editor that you see at the top here. Now once you've attached the files, composed your message, hit send, and basically the same effect as hitting that secure send button in Outlook, we're able to hit the send button here, and the files now go securely encrypted in both in transit and at rest to these 2 individuals, and we will be notified when they go ahead and open them. So let's run through that example again, because in this case VDemo for sure doesn't have an account, and let's show how easy it is for them to set up a guest account in a matter of seconds. So we've got that email here. It's waiting for us, demo with Victor. Recall that's what the name of the channel was, so that translates into the subject line of the email. We pop that email open. There's the 2 images of the Jeep, the employment contract, the message that was composed, hi VDemo and Emily, here are the files for your review. And from here, again, all I have to do is hit access files. And right away it takes me to a registration page. So the system automatically detected that, hey, this individual doesn't have a TitanFile account, and for them to be able to securely access this information, we need to know who they are. So let's create a guest account for them, and it takes literally 5 seconds, and they only have to do this once. And then forever, they have basically a guest account on your client portal that they can log into and retrieve any information from anybody from your firm that sends them that. So in this case, Michael sent this individual some information, but maybe 3 weeks from now, a completely different professional is corresponding with this individual. This client doesn't have to go through this process again. They only have to do it once, and they basically indefinitely have a guest account on your client system. So I'm just going to go ahead and modify the name. I'm going to call this person Smith. I'm going to put in my own password, click Proceed to Files, and momentarily, you can see here in the top right-hand corner, I'm logged in as Smith, and just like I showed earlier, I can now go ahead and download all these files, and I can send files back to my professional if I have to. But that's how easy it is for both the staff member as well as the external party. So let me close that. Let me go back to the professional here, Michael, and let's talk about what's happening here in the interaction. So we went through the use case of how easy it was to send some files to an outside party. We discussed that that party doesn't have to have an account. It really behaves like an extension of your email. It gives you the opportunity to send really big files. Everything's safe and secure. Question comes up, okay, what am I seeing on the screen right now? So what you're seeing are different, what we call them, secure communication channels. So essentially they're like different email threads. Each one is private and independent of the one above it. Each one has its own subject line, and you can visually see who has access to that information. So in the first one here with the demo with Victor, Emily's there, so she can only see the stuff that's in this channel. She can't see anything else that's in other channels. And to prove that, you'll notice that client Smith is there. And if we switch back into Smith's account, again, top right-hand corner, I'm logged in as Smith. If we collapse this channel, you'll see that Smith doesn't see any other channels. So what you give Smith access to in that channel is the only thing that that person's going to see. So you as the professional can have as many channels as you want with as many clients as you want and maintain the privacy of those conversations visually. Right away you can see who has access and who doesn't. Now if we expand one of these channels, just to take a look closer of what's happening within the channel, you can see here that we're actually right now on the conversation view. And if Smith was to respond to these messages, so let's get Smith to respond. So he's going to download one document, and he's going to say, this time he's not going to send anything, he's just going to say, thanks, we'll get back to you. Hit send. And I'm going to revert back again to Michael. So I'm back with the professionals view. As you can see here, in the conversation view, it puts Smith's message on top of mine with the date and timestamp. So this really is behaving just like an email thread would. Smith just responded to some messages and files that I sent him. If we go into the history, this is where compliance kicks in. So here's an audit trail, basically a report showing you everything from the moment that the channel was created at 12:29 Eastern Time to when I gave access to vDemo, to when I gave access to Emily, uploaded a bunch of files. And the one that we really care most about is proof that this person actually downloaded files that we shared with them. So there's a date and timestamp showing both Smith downloading all the files by hitting that download all button, as well as Smith downloading that individual file, the employment contract. So everything is tracked. We get it both here in the history trail, and we get an email confirmation just like you would in a read receipt in your email inbox. Now, the conversation thread is really great because it behaves like email, but if you're dealing with a really large number of files and you want to organize them into folders, it makes sense to look at a files only view. So if we switch into the files view, as you can see here, it strips out all the messages and it gives me a more traditional files and folders view that you may have been more familiar with, on your computer or in a system like Dropbox. Here I can organize all my files simply by hitting the file name. It organizes things for me alphabetically. I can see who uploaded them. That's what owner means. And I can organize them based on when they were uploaded. Finally, I can also create folders. So for example, I can create a folder and I can call this June 2017. And I can either drag and drop files directly into that folder after they've been uploaded, so I can organize them. And you can see here in my June folder, I've got that one image. Or if I go back to the home directory, I can actually upload files directly into a specific folder that already exists. So if I'm in the June folder, I can go ahead and attach files. And let's say it's this image. And you can see in the file path here, it's telling me that this image is being uploaded directly into that folder. So you can really use folders to organize your data if you are dealing with something that's more long-term or a heavier volume of files. Just go ahead and refresh here. So that's how the files and folders section works. Now the other thing that I want to highlight here, let me just, it seems like I've logged in with the wrong person. Sorry, let me get back in here with my demo account. Let's see if I can. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. Now we're back in. Awesome. So one thing I did want to bring to your attention, in addition to the Files tab, which gives you the organizational capabilities, the History tab, which gives you the audit trail and the compliance aspects, there's full control here under the Options tab for you to set some different rules. The one that I want to guide you through today, just in the interest of time, and if you're interested in learning more about all the detailed features here, we can always set up a private session afterwards and go through some of these and how they can help your organization. But the one that I want to really highlight is the data retention policy, which really means you can control how long your data lives in TitanFile. So in most organizations, if you already have a document management system, that's where the master file lives. That's where everything resides. And you don't want to necessarily have stuff living sometimes in TitanFile, sometimes on your computer, and sometimes in your document management system. Your IT is going to go crazy. So the data retention policy gives your firm the capability to control how long stuff stays in TitanFile. We have some clients that want things deleted from TitanFile after a period of 2 weeks. Others retain stuff in TitanFile for over a year, and others retain it even longer. It really depends on your business case, and it really depends if you're using this merely as a way of temporarily sharing information, or if you're using this for more long-term collaborations on specific matters that you're working on. So lots of flexibility, and the control is ultimately in your hands to decide how long data lives in the TitanFile system. Keeping in mind, everything's of course encrypted while it's in TitanFile, so it's safe there. It's just a matter of keeping control of your data long term. So that's all I want to talk about right now from the TitanFile perspective on the web application. I think we've demonstrated the ease of use quite well. One last thing, maybe just before we jump into the Q&A, is I'm going to want to go back into the slide deck here real quick. And let me just switch the display settings. Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit more detailed about the security and the feature side of things in case some things weren't super clear in the demo. And then we'll jump into Q&A and we'll have plenty of time to take everybody's questions and comments. So just to give you a quick overview, it's a robust, secure solution. We handle large files very gracefully. There's lots of enterprise integration available. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. We showed the audit trails, and I'm going to review data residency. For those firms based in Canada, you want to make sure your data stays in Canada. For those based in the United States, you want to make sure your data is in the United States, and so on. And we talked about that retention policy moments ago, keeping control of your data. For those that are not aware, in your Outlook settings, under Internet Email Settings, you can turn on TLS, which gives you encryption on your emails. It's free. It's already built in. You just need to turn it on. The only downside of this is that your recipient also has to have it on for it to properly work. So both the sender and the recipient have to have TLS on, but I encourage you to dig into that a little bit further, and I'm happy to answer any questions there as well. On the TitanFile side, so to review, we provide end-to-end encryption. There's encryption in transit, so we use TLS in transit. Doesn't matter what the recipient's using, it's always going to be encrypted when you send it through TitanFile. All of your data is being stored encrypted at rest. We also have something called client-side encryption through our Hitachi partner called Credion, and this gives you an added level of security where you get to control the encryption keys. And for those on the IT side, we also can provide IP fencing, meaning people can use TitanFile only from certain locations, maybe from the office and not from home and so on. There's two-factor authentication available, and of course we are in fully certified data centers with full disaster recovery and business continuity plans in place. In terms of files, like I mentioned, there's no storage limit, so you can send any file size, any type through the system. On the enterprise side, we have an API available, and so if you'd like to hook TitanFile into an existing system, we can do that. I mentioned when on the login page, we can hook up into your Active Directory so that you can use your corporate credentials to log in to TitanFile as well. That's available through single sign-on. The Outlook add-in is an amazing tool because if you're using a document management system, you probably already have that integrated into your Outlook. So TitanFile really comes in at the end of that workflow, and we automatically integrate with your document management system, which is amazing. On the audit trail side, just highlighting here that in Outlook, your recipient can in fact deny you a read receipt. It's one of the settings that's available, where in TitanFile, if compliance is important to you, these audit trails and the confirmation emails are going to be always there. They cannot be turned off. And of course, you can control these notifications. You have quite a bit of flexibility. We didn't really talk about this in the demo, but you can, in fact, choose when you get emails regarding confirmation of email and so on as the sender. From a data residency side, we can deploy this as a secure cloud or on-premise, whichever is your preference. So TitanFile is very flexible that way. We have data centers in Canada, in the United States, in Asia, in Europe, and also pleased to announce that we just opened up one in the UK for our clients in the UK. I know that's in Europe, but UK also has its own residency requirements. So that's open as of earlier this year, I believe. So just to kind of wrap things up and jump into the Q&A, just as a high-level recap, why do law firms and professional service providers choose TitanFile? One, it's a very secure solution, and it's easy to use as email. It allows you to protect that confidential communication with your clients and other parties. It really is quite a time saver, especially when you think about having to burn files onto DVDs or go down to the mail room and send a USB key. You can now do that with drag and drop right out of your desktop. And when I say increased client satisfaction, it's both internal clients, so typically lawyers and staff are really the clients to the IT team, so you're going to make your staff members happier, and you're going to make your outside party, the clients there, much happier because the system is so easy to use and seamless. So some major organizations that have made the shift and are using the TitanFile technology, everything from financial services organizations to government organizations both in Canada and the United States, as well as prominent law firms and legal service delivery organizations. And I'll leave you with one quick quote just before we jump into Q&A. And IT director from a prominent law firm says, "Client confidentiality is so important to us. TitanFile gives us peace of mind, control, and security." So with that, I sincerely want to thank you for joining me for the first 45 minutes of the webinar. I really appreciate your time and attention. My contact information is on the screen, victor@titanfile.com. If you have any questions or would like to chat further, please feel free to email me or call me. My phone number is there as well. And now I'm going to switch into the questions point section, and I'm going to just recap here with my moderator, and I'll read out the questions so that everybody can hear them, and we'll answer them together. Just give me 1 second to get the questions from the moderator here. Okay, first question. Great question. The question goes, would this solution be more appropriate for large firms or small offices? So the TitanFile system is easy enough to use by solo practitioners and scalable for national firms. So today we have clients, everything from solo practitioners, individual lawyers, individual financial advisors, to medium-sized businesses, regional firms, international firms, and major enterprises that have thousands of users. So the system has all the ease of use, and you can set this up and go in a matter of minutes just by signing up for a free trial. And it has all the control and security policies that you would expect when a major national firm signs up and expects to roll this out enterprise-wide. There's a question about pricing. How does pricing work? So TitanFile pricing, we essentially have three different levels of three types of plans. I'm just going to get out of the system here for a second. I want to bring up the page just to help guide you so that response is more relevant, just going to go to the TitanFile web page here and take you to the pricing page. Okay, so on the pricing, we've got 3 plans. Light, professional, and enterprise, depending on the size of your organization and what your business needs are. Most small and medium businesses use the professional because it provides you all the security and compliance features that you would need. And for organizations looking for some customizations and specific requirements, they typically go on the enterprise. So in terms of pricing, the way it works is that you only need licenses, paid licenses for your employees, meaning that you can have an unlimited number of external guest accounts. So whether it's clients, whether it's vendors, you know, if you're whether you're a 5-person small business or you're a 2,000-person national firm, you only need to get licenses for the members of your firm that are going to be using the system, and then everybody outside that organization is going to be free, and they can, just like I showed you in the demo, they will be able to receive files from you, and they're going to be able to send files back to you using the secure system. So it allows still for that bidirectional communication between you and the outside party. Just moving on here to some other questions. Question about integration. Does it integrate with OpenText eDocs? So yes, it does. TitanFile integrates with the Outlook plugin. Let me just bring that up here real quick. So with the Outlook plugin, if you are currently using eDocs, you for sure have it hooked in so that you can attach files directly into Outlook from eDocs. And so TitanFile doesn't change the way that you attach files. You can still bring in files directly out of eDocs into a message, and all you do is hit the secure send button at the end of that email. So there are no issues there whatsoever. And we have that third-party connector available for iManage with the web portal. Another question here, great question from an attendee. With data retention, can we pick and choose channels we do not want the data removed from? I believe there is an option for that. Perhaps we can chat a little bit further to better understand your needs. But I know that with the data retention policy, the way that it essentially works is that, maybe I can bring that up on the screen as well to help illustrate. With the data retention policy, if you go into a specific channel, you can set the expiry date. And so if you only choose to expire certain channels and you're manually doing this, you can definitely do that. When you set up an automated policy, it applies to everything in the system. So you either have to apply the policy and then manually turn it off for specific channels, or not have an automated policy and then manually delete channels at your choice. But the flexibility is there. If you don't want the policy to apply to everybody, there's definitely a way to make that happen. Great question. One more question here related to mobile apps. Does TitanFile work on mobile apps? Absolutely. So I'm using an iPhone 6 personally, and I use TitanFile there often. I know we have tons of clients that are using iPads. So any mobile device really, doesn't have to be a phone, whether it's a tablet, a Microsoft Surface, iPad, Android phone, an iPhone. The system works equally well on any platform that I had just mentioned. And it's properly sizes, and it gives you the right functionality that you need for that specific form factor. So obviously, you need it to be optimized for an iPhone that may be a little bit narrower than an iPad, perhaps. But it works very, very well on those systems. Got another question with regards to data retention policy. Are we able to set it up so that, so the question goes, are we able to set up the data retention policy so that the data is removed but the channel does not expire and the client can continue to use it? That is possible, and Alicia, I'm going to get in touch with you after the webinar, and we can set up a quick call maybe and further discuss this. But absolutely, this is something that we've been looking into so that you can maintain that channel for ongoing communication with the client. So happy to chat further about that offline. And we've got actually one more question. Lots of great questions today. One more question with regards to encryption keys. Who owns the encryption keys? Okay, so the way that it works is that if you're using TitanFile, just like if you're using any other secure file sharing system that has encryption, you are trusting the service provider, in this case us, to be your security custodian and host your encryption keys. So we only we only decrypt files when you're actually authorized to do so, and that's how the system works, more so as an industry standard all across the board. With client-side encryption, this additional integration that we have with the Hitachi Crayon system, you can actually own your own encryption keys and control them independent of us being TitanFile. We have several clients that have specific business use cases where that's required, and so if you are also being asked by your clients if you own the encryption keys, feel free to get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to provide you with additional information on how that technology works. We have a white paper that goes into great detail how you can control your own encryption keys and still use TitanFile. And it looks like there are no further questions. So it's 12:57. Everybody gets 3 minutes back from their own time, which is awesome. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining today's webinar. Really appreciate all your great questions and participation. And I will send out a copy of the recording, a link to the recording sometime, if not later today, then for sure on Monday, so that you can share it with your colleagues that weren't able to attend. So with that, I wish everybody a fantastic weekend and now conclude the webinar. Thanks and have a great day.